Good morning, young folks, boys and girls. My name is Jim Embry, and I've been invited by the Carnegie Center to provide a session as part of their series about gardening. My session will have about 3 parts to it. The first part is why I love gardening and why I want you all to also love gardening. The second part will talk about how to plant seeds in various kind of containers. And the third part will talk about how to harvest what you've planted and what it might look like, and then adding compost into that. So those are the 3 parts. I'm going to jump right in and talk about why I love gardening and why I want you also to love gardening. So I've been doing gardening in Lexington for almost my whole life, okay? And I have helped to begin about 40 gardens, is that 40? About 40 gardens in Lexington in various schools, churches, synagogues, mosques, things like that, city parks. In the schools, I've helped put in gardens, for example, just a few, Arlington, Yates, Cardinal Valley, Maxwell, Sayre, various Montessori schools, different parks around the city as well. I've helped put in gardens. So again, I love gardening, and I want to show you a picture of a friend of mine, and her name is Selena. Now, look at Selena, and you can see that smile on her face and how much she's enjoying being in her school garden. Look at her hands that are covered with the black fertile earth. I call this photograph gold dust because in my view, the black soil on her hands, the black soil on her fingers are more valuable than gold, and it really is. So this is Selena, and I would like all of you all to be in the garden and have that kind of smile that she has as she enjoys her school garden with her classmates and her other siblings. Also, think about the garden is that you get to also see all these incredible insects and birds. You get to go out in the garden, and if you're lucky and you plant some of the right flowers in your garden, you'll get to see like this swallowtail butterfly come to your garden, and all other kinds of butterflies will come into your garden, as well as all delicious food you get to eat. You'll also, if you're lucky, if you plant flowers and things that attract hummingbirds, then you'll get to see hummingbirds in your garden as well, coming in, especially here in Kentucky. It's the red-throated hummingbird that comes our way. So, wow. Now, aren't those good reasons to love gardening? Also, when you garden, one of the ways to choose seeds is you get to subscribe to and ask for all these beautiful seed catalogs that come in your mail. And I get 8 or 10 of them, okay, all the time, every year. That's not very pretty there. That helps you then select the kind of seeds you may want. So that's one good reason to love gardening. All these beautiful seed catalogs. And you can also use them, again, like for art projects. Once you've already used them, you can cut them up, make pictures, and draw on them and things like that. Now, a lot of our gardens that we do in Lexington are based upon this model called the edible schoolyard. I would suggest young folks and parents that you all go online and get a copy of this book called The Edible Schoolyard. This is a middle school in California, out in Berkeley, that's founded by a good friend of mine named Alice Waters, and she believes that every school and every home, apartment, house, wherever you live, ought to have a garden. And she believes that within the edible schoolyard, students should learn how to plant a garden, okay? How to care for it, how to plant veggies, blackberries, blueberries, fruit trees, mushrooms, and things like that. Plant them, but also harvest them, and then bring them inside the school, and then help prepare them, help chop them up, help cook what they're growing, as well as eat it. So if you get a copy of this book, it's one of the best guides I know to help us understand how to love gardening. I'm going to show you all a few images that gardening isn't anything new for young people. Back during World War I and World War II, early 1900s up to 1940s, there were victory gardens everywhere. Every school, every church, every community park had gardens. So here's some images of kids back in the 1920s in their school uniforms out in their school garden. So again, loving gardening isn't anything new. Now, if you're lucky in your garden, you will get to plant things, harvest them, and then come out of the garden with your arms full of what you've been planting and growing all summer. Now, that's a good reason to love a garden, just from what you can take out of the garden and take into your house. And then, as I said before, in the garden, one of the reasons to love it, you get to hang out with all these insects, like ladybugs, and spiders and worms or whatever, are all part of the garden experience. That ladybug is a good reason to love being in the garden. And maybe in your garden, in your backyard, or even in your school, maybe the garden is also like a mini urban farm. And you get to raise chickens, and the chickens lay, as you see, all kinds of colors of eggs, where you don't even need at Easter time to dye your eggs, because your chickens are laying all these colorful eggs for you anyway. Now, those are good reasons to love gardening. But again, with the edible schoolyard model, they're taught to make their own signs, to raise pumpkins for the fall, to do your Halloween festivities. But also at the edible schoolyard, they believe the students should come in, help prepare the food, cook the food, and things like that as part of their school curriculum. So you all should be asking your school principals and staff to let you all grow a school garden and a home garden, and then be able to prepare it at your school. And then once you've prepared it and cooked it, what a wonderful treat it is to be able to eat it as well. So that's the first session on gardening, about why I love gardening and why I want you to love gardening.